I'm back. Happy Black History Month. It's been 2 weeks. Did you miss me? I'll take a minute to step away, rearrange some things, get myself together, and y'all just can't act right. Minding my African American business, I sat down, watched Monique's interview or podcast experience over at Club Shay Shay, and not even a full 2 weeks later, her oldest son comes out and airs some dirty laundry. These Nepo babies, my goodness. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. It's Mr. Foxy I Refuse podcast. Like I said, I'm back after some time away from the YouTube channel. But don't fret, we still have weekly episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast of the I Refuse podcast, of the usual suspects, the I Refuse podcast after dark. So listen, like I said, I was minding my African American business, working my day job, going to the gym, social distancing, you know, the whole shebang and bang. I sat down, I watched the Club Shay Shay Monique's episode. I paused once, went to the bathroom, did a couple things, came back, and finished the rest of it. Very, very good. It's right up there, of course, with Katt Williams. We did a whole episode about it on The Usual Suspects. You know, myself and F Shake Sagittarius. Go check that out. I loved it. The second half is the best part. You know, the first part, it was a little, she was giving out cliched answers and not really getting real deep with anything. But that second half, she got comfortable. She got into her groove. She still is funny and everything and all that other stuff. I saw the Netflix special. I mean, it is what it is. Just like with Katt Williams, she too got a response. Woke up a couple of people who responded, DL Hughley included. Which, by the way, a grown-ass man wearing dark shades indoors should be studied. It's not a good look, you know, when a man responds to a woman. But the reason why I'm here, Monique's oldest son, Shalon, whom she's brought with her to her BET Awards stints when she was hosting and everything. And it's funny how people just forget and like try to diminish her legacy and her legend and her icon status. Like, she didn't give you like several of the best BET Awards back to back to back when she was the host. But the Netflix special comes out and it's like, oh, it's not funny. And unfortunately, you know, the grievance tour that she was on for a short while, a couple years ago, people are still talking about it. And of course, if you keep asking her, she's going to tell the same story each time, which at some point people got to believe to be true. So her son, Shalon, you know, the episode's been out for almost 2 weeks now. He decides he wants to go, I believe, on IG Live or wherever he was, to respond to a couple of things she said about praying to the universe for a relationship with her kids or forgiveness or something like that. And he responded.
Stand-up comedian Monique's oldest son. I guess I felt the need to make this video to just provide some context into this false narrative about her praying to the universe in order to reconcile our relationship or whatever the hell it is. I wrote it all down so that way I don't go all over the place and get emotional or anything like that. So I'm gonna talk like I'm reading a script, but it's just gonna help me kind of stay together. But to address the Clip Shay interview that she did, where she states that she prays to the universe in regards to reconciling our relationship, as I stated, is odd. My mother and I both know that that is a very false narrative, and I would like to free her of having to continue telling that lie. Faith without work is dead, and neither one of us cares to put forth any effort to reconcile with the other. We are separate, as she put it, because she doesn't care to be my mother any more than I care to be her son. Neither one of us has had the desire to reach out to the other in a very long time, and I don't think that either of us anticipates that feeling ever returning. Speaking with my mother directly, in my experience, will either lead to some odd newfound moment of clarity in regards to how she was as my mother, or she retreats back to daddy to move forward with a conversation. And I'm tired of hearing my mother's truths. Newsflash, I'm not sure if people know, but standing in your truth doesn't make you noble. I'm not sure if people are aware of that. But responding this way, I feel as though it allows me to say my piece uninterrupted. To those wondering, well, why say something now? Call it a form of therapy for me, I suppose. But when her daddy had intentionally stated that they have 3 sons, but his wife is on the internet talking about the 4th son in a video that has millions of views, that rubbed me the wrong way. But anyway, to inform a child that you are not interested in being a mother at a time when that kid is the only kid, that has the potential to lead a child to believe that you are not interested in them specifically. But to take it a step further, you also admit, my mother had also admitted to me that she didn't do the best job that she could do, which would also make one begin to question, all of your past decisions and prior emotional interactions. But to be completely honest and fair, those were things that I was willing to get over. Nobody's perfect, we're all human, but my mother showed a clear lack of humility, compassion, consideration when taking any level of accountability for those things. My mother does a fantastic job of acknowledging a lot of things, but she doesn't take accountability very well, and anything that she may take true accountability for, it's only at her convenience, in my experience. But if I had to guess, though, her interest in being a mother probably started around the time that she married her daddy and had his children. But that interest, obviously seemed one-sided, and as it should have been. By that time, I'm in my late teens, so to some degree, the neglect becomes easier to hide or validate, I guess you could say. There are now 2 baby boys in the house, that require attention. But still during that time, however, I still watched her enjoy the love and admiration of total strangers more than my own. To this very day, my mother has never expressed to me when, if ever, she became interested in me as her son. That did lead me down a path of questioning my self-worth and struggling to understand the value of a mother in a child's life. In the interview, she also states that she gave me an apology, but an apology to a son from a mother that consciously showed no interest in him holds no weight. There are still women to this day that my mother will give credit to for being more of a mother to me than she ever could. Her assistant, my cousin, being one of them. Every time, though, that my mother would state that she was right here whenever I was ready, that ideology still blows my mind today, that a person could openly admit to being an uninterested, not put my best foot forward type of parent, and be so self-centered that they still express to the kid, you have to come to me when you're ready. You got to come to me for us to make this right. Okay? I'm not sure what my mother could possibly think that she has shown me in the past or have for me now that's not money, goodness gracious, that would make me want to come to her or whatever those things are supposed to be. A mother is supposed to be the first woman that a boy falls in love with. I loved my mother very much, but my mother loved things more than she loved me, and she would validate her love for me by giving me things and would proceed to call me ungrateful or inconsiderate if said things did not have the desired effect. I couldn't imagine what it's like to be her, though, to ask God for what you want, and then he gives you what you need, though, only for you to ignore it and have the audacity to ask God for something else. And I'm glad I don't, I'm glad I didn't do that. And when he told you no, you went to the universe instead. By no means, though, do I want to give off any type of an impression that I am a victim of anything. That's not the case. As you can see, I'm smiling from ear to ear. I'm alive, I'm happy, I'm a dad. I'm healthy, I think. I drink a lot of water. I'm getting over a cold now. I still have my days just like everybody else. And, there were a few things that she did teach me along the way. I did learn how not to love from my mother. I also learned to make sure that I never lose so much of who I am that I have to validate it through another person. And though I feel as though, in hindsight, I think she did it reluctantly, I do appreciate my mother, for showing me what the top of the mountain looks like. You know what I'm saying? It did give me perspective on what hard work and dedication can get you, but I don't want something like that at the cost of giving up something that I created. I don't want that bad. And speaking of creations, I genuinely, truly, I really did want my mother to have a relationship with my daughter. I even thought through those intrusive thoughts that were, if she wasn't interested in me, what makes you think she's going to be interested in your kid? But it took my mother no time at all to prove that those intrusive thoughts were correct. But what I can say, good for her, the universe did, bless her with three other sons. And God willing, I'm sure that all three of them are adults now. So I'm sure that one of them, God willing, if not all three of them, will make her the grandmother that she wants to be. I still look forward, to that moment for her. But overall, when it comes to the boys, though, I am happy that whenever they do hear me talk, sorry, my phone did something weird, but whenever they hear me talk, they don't know what it is. They can't relate to what it is that I'm saying. My experience with my mother is not their experience with our mother. So my prayer for her and them is that they continue to see her the way that they see her now. I do also want to make sure that I say thank you to my mother for giving me life. Without that moment in time, I wouldn't have had my little one. But outside of that moment, there isn't anything that either of us has to offer the other. In my opinion, it's a waste of God's time and the universe's time for praying for something that you were not willing to put forth any effort to obtain. Putting the work into becoming Monique is more important to my mother than being my mother. And I do not believe that it was never about her being there and waiting for me, but it was supposed to be about me being there and waiting for her. My mother's value had reached such a low point in my life that I no longer found it necessary to either want to wait for her or even go to her. But like I said, man, I'm super grateful that she has the opportunity to do it all over again. I'm happy for her. I hope the Cat Williams tour goes well, but the narrative that she prays for us to reconcile is a false narrative. It's not real. I'd appreciate it if she stopped saying stuff like that.
So, so much to unpack. So much to unpack. Now, my first thought when I saw that this made news, I was like, why now? Shalon is Monique's oldest son. And in the video, he did mention that he's pushing 30. And I vaguely remember back during the early 2000s when Monique was hosting the BET Awards, she would be right there, he would be right there alongside her on stage and all that other stuff. So I knew he existed. And she even, when she had like that one Latham comedy stand-up special, her experiences taking them to school and dealing with the teachers and stuff was part of her bit. So I'm a little confused as to this narrative here because, you know, while there is a reality that Black parents especially are emotionally distant from their kids, especially when they're a single parent, whether it's just a one-parent household or they're married to somebody that is just not present. She's the breadwinner. He's, I guess, in the house with her first, I think, her second husband at the time. I'm just not, I don't feel sorry for him. Like, this narrative, this story that he's putting out is not that special. Like, you're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last former child that grew up with emotionally distant parents who, in absence of emotional connection and emotional expression of love, hugs and kisses and support, they instead buy you things. And it's like, part of me is like, I wish I had that. But my mother wasn't Monique. Like, totally two different tax brackets. My mother never graduated high school. The best she could do money-wise was minimum wage jobs and child support that she got. But not that feely, touchy, expressive type, and not equipped to express herself effectively. It's either some kind of drama or some kind of guilt trip. And I talked about that on the podcast on yesterday's episode. Go check that out. But I don't know. It's like, you know, when you hear his story and you hear like other grown-ass children of celebrities like Angie Stone's daughter and Kirk Franklin's son, I can't help but feel like there's something else missing from this. And my takeaway from Shalon's experience doing this thing on IG or whatever is, what did you want out of this? If you claim that neither you nor your mother want to form a relationship, then just let it be. You know, at some point, I would say after you become an adult of legal age, you know, it's ultimately up to you. You know, you can choose to keep your distance and accept your parents for who they are and just kind of go off to forge your own life, which he didn't fail to mention that at the end of the video. which further confused me because it's like, you spent most of this 7 minutes essentially like airing your mother out for the past. While during that time, you were in the house, you were cared for, you were financially supported, and like at no point then was there any kind of the same energy. So I'm not understanding why I do it now. And the word on the curb is that he's done this before. He's popped his head out and said similar stuff in the past before. Coincidentally, at the same time that the spotlight's on her. So it's very much giving like pick me. As somebody that has been a latchkey kid, you learn early on about independence, and you learn early on, you know, you don't want, in order for you not to have the same outcome as other people in this house, you got to make some executive decisions. Now, I don't know at what point in his first 18, 19 years that he was like, you know what? This is just what it is. I can't force somebody to have an emotional connection. If I feel like they don't want to be a parent, they just don't want to be a parent. Maybe I'm deaf and I'm like, I would, even if that's my reality, I would never go on social media to air them out in the present with experiences from the past. And he didn't really give a whole lot of specifics. It was more like, he was like skating around. I'm like, what did you want? What was your expectation? And what did she not give you? It's very much giving, you know, disgruntled. You know, there is a twinge of jealousy I picked up on, you know, as the first or the oldest child, out, you know, the result of a failed marriage. Your experience is going to be different than that of the younger kids. I would liken it to like when you're the first or the second ex, and then you watch your ex treat the next one better. And in the back of your mind, you're like, I literally played a part in making this person a better man for somebody else. That's kind of wild. But with that, it's like, when he got to that point about the twins and how, you know, the family was nurturing and supportive and loving hard on them, and he wasn't getting that, I couldn't help but think of like the Brian McKnight situation. I mean, hopefully it didn't get to that extreme to where Monique kind of like wiped out any memory or presence of the older kids in favor of the kids he has with his light-skinned wife in his second marriage. Hopefully it didn't get to that point, because that's some very colorist shit over there. I don't know, it just doesn't curl all the way around for me. You know, the reality is what it is, and that's a reflection of what she was possibly or allegedly lacking from her parents. You know, these older generations are not the touchy-feely type. You know, they do the best they can. You know, it's not like in Roots where you have like 5 generations in one house and everybody, you know, there's a whole village taking part in your rearing and all that. Literally, single parent homes. The most responsible child is the one that's the babysitter. The oldest one left kind of comes in every now and then. And your mother is the sole income. Now, had I just like lived off of my mom or lived off of family and probably was in a situation where I probably couldn't express myself, I probably would have ended up like Shalon. But, you know, for things you can't get answers to, as far as, you know, an expectation you have of your parents or expectations of the adults in your life who raised you, legal guardians or whatever. Social media wouldn't be the first place I would go. I would go to therapy. And I did. And clearly you're not as healthy as you claim in this video, because you're vying for something and you're lacking something. Very much giving attention seeking, and you want her to see you. But you don't want her to know her grandkids. I may be a little bit a little slow on the upkeep, but when y'all run to social media, maybe somebody can help me. When y'all run to social media, right? What are you expecting the audience to side with you? Because I just am not 100% sold on allegiance or supporting what Shalon is trying to do with this video. I mean, clearly he's trying to take away from Monique's moment. And I'm a firm believer that now more than ever, she requires a proper moment. And at the end of the day, you are a 30-year-old man, almost 30. Let me think. Shalon was born in the late 90s, almost 30. Maybe somebody can help me out. It's tragic, you know. The story itself is tragic, but like I said, it's not special. There are a lot of us out here that have experiences growing up in an emotionally distant house. You have a parent that is of the old school, you know, I'm not the best at parenting. Let me buy you something. I have to go to work. You know, I'm not going to always be here to wipe your boo-boo and pat you on the back. Sometimes you need a kick in the butt. And, you know, depending on the person, to fill that void, you may drift off into some things and some irresponsible behaviors. But at the end of the day, it's on you to change the trajectory of your life. It's not on Monique. It's not on her husband. It's not on the twins that they have together. It's not on your grandfather. It's not on your uncles. It's not on your children. It's not on your wife or girlfriend, whomever you are with right now. It's on you. Another thing that kind of comes off ungrateful to me. You know, you, at the end of the day, you had a childhood or an experience of loftiness. A lot of us did not get that. I'm with you that it shouldn't be about material things, right? And also I can say that a lot of us out here didn't get that, but we're not on IG Live, you know, airing out family business. And I will say what Mr. Hicks, Monique's current husband, is saying on the IG Live. It's not helping matters. It's, first of all, you're not that boy's father. So you don't have, by the time you came into the picture, there wasn't much of a connection. I don't know what the reality of that relationship was like, because I think he was 10 by the time you got into the picture. But your response to this man is, we bought him a car. All right, so what? You're doing all the talking. Monique is quiet. I too am weirded out by her constantly calling you daddy. It's just, you know, when it comes to Monique and her husband, you know, as her manager, it's just weird that you're paying a man that you call daddy. I wouldn't go as far as DL Hughley and say you're paying somebody to love you, because that's just grossly unfair and so disrespectful. But I wouldn't have went on IG as a grown-ass man, the super adult in the situation, to try to justify the less than standard experience this grown man, her son, experienced. I mean, I can definitely say two things in parallel that may sound contradictory. Like, it's just not a good look all around. You know, you got the son that is clear, he's clearly hurting. He's clearly hurting. Curious to know if he's been going to therapy. One thing about therapy is that it keeps you from reliving the past and living in the past. I've been going to therapy since the age of 17. You're never too good for it. But I will say that there's definitely a high level of longing that Shalon has to, although his words are, I'm not interested in a relationship. Clearly you're interested in something that the intention is bringing. I'm sure there'll be a phone call. There will definitely be a phone call. There will be a couple of slaps on the wrist, maybe a check cut, which is a very dangerous precedent to set. But if there's anything if it's up to me to decide who needs to make the first step, it would have to be Monique and her, well, I'll just say Monique needs to make the first step. She needs to make the first step, be the bigger person, and really get her relationship with her kids right. And Shalon needs to get in therapy. Therapy does wonders. And we don't need any more dark clouds around Monique at this time. It's Mr. Fox, the I Refuse podcast. Sorry the energy was down a little bit. It hit me because I shared a little bit of my experience with y'all. Never thought I would do that on this channel. But it's 2024, it's Black History Month, and the shit show continues. See? Welcome to the shit show. Welcome to the shit show. This has been the I Refuse podcast on the YouTube channel. Hope you're enjoying season 5, wherever you get your podcasts. The I Refuse podcast is on Spotify, Apple, Overcast, iHeartRadio, as well as Google Cast and all those other platforms. We have the Twitter at I Refuse Podcast. Follow, subscribe there. The links are on all our socials. For the link in the Twitter and the Instagram at I Refuse Podcast _ between the words will take you to all the links that carry our podcast and the Usual Suspects podcast and the I Refuse podcast After Dark. I promise I won't keep y'all waiting another 2 weeks for a new episode on the YouTube channel. I've just been so busy in the mornings and so tired in the evenings. Trying to get buff, yeah. Trying to get boof. But stay hydrated, stay warm, grease your scalp, drink lots of water, and, exercise. And most importantly, stay black. Before I get up out of here, you got to get into this week's episode that dropped yesterday. We talked about the Usher halftime show. We talked about Beyonce releasing 2 new songs and that T-Mobile commercial. Act 2 is going to be country. It's coming out March 29th. And I'm ready to giddy up. We also talk about, on the episode, the walkout at James Madison High School and that story of those 2 Kentucky women that went on their Bahamas cruise. And once the Bahamas cruise ship docked in Jamaica, went to a resort, accepted 2-for-1 drinks from resort employees. Thought the drinks were a little strong, but continued to drink them anyway. Then claimed that they wanted them to help them get seashells for their kids, and then that they blacked out. The I Refuse podcast is available everywhere. The full episode is up on the podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I Refuse Podcast, Season 5. New episode is out this week. Check it out. Also, I talk more about a thorn in my side when it comes to me and my mom's relationship. Take it easy. Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse